and moves were made. Hands were shook, money exchanged hands, possibly drugs. But it was all good. It was all in the name of fantasy football.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dynasty. Like I said, we all see things differently.
Put it on his shirt.
I just drank what tasted like a root beer, but now I'm feeling kind of tipsy.
Ride that unicorn, my friend.
I was really going to do an awful Mexican accent, but I realized how mad I'd be at someone else for doing that. So, hi.
We all are very intrigued and very interested in what will happen this year.
Tuesday, 9:48 in the AM. This is Peter Livingston. You are listening to The Dynasty, a sensual, seasonal fantasy football podcast in which 12 friends enter, one leaves, champion. Oh my goodness, Thursday, October 5th is the day. Week 5 is officially here. Man, I guess depending on some of your seasons, you're about a third of the way through, maybe a quarter if you're crazy and like to go into week 17 and stuff like that, which is a horrible idea, and you should definitely reconsider your league if you're doing that. Horrible, 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 horrible. But we're not looking at the future. Well, I guess we are in a way. We're looking to week 5. Week 5 is going to be a defining week, I think, for a lot of people. You know, me especially, and I'm sure others in leagues all around the world. But there are some good matchups. There's also some really bad matchups. A lot of really gross quarterback matchups this week around the NFL, and like hilariously bad. So it should be an entertaining week. But let's get into our league. We had, of course, our waivers go down and free agents. So we have our Robin Brown Ward report card for all things waiver and free agency. We have Patty projections and all of their hilarious, but also quite accurate, I must say, look to the future, and then we'll just do our typical breakdown of the week that we have and look at some potential situations that could be coming down the line. I was debating whether I wanted to look at rest of season, but I think I might do that at the halfway point. We may, by week 6, 7, pretty much have an idea of who could or could not be in the playoffs. I think I'll wait for week 7 before I get too deep into scheduling. Just because I think that if I don't know, doing it now, it just seems a little bit much. But we'll do that at the halfway point. But let's go ahead and look at some news and notes really quick. So, you know, I went over a lot already on Tuesday night covering last week, but looking at this week, you know, Ty Montgomery is practicing. He put on, like I was saying before, flak jacket, rib protectors, and practiced. So he could be playing. I guess the big question is how much will he play? You know, Williams, which apparently doesn't have a multi-week knee injury, is apparently saying that he is good to go and can practice. So, I don't know. Me personally, not that I am some beat writer for the Packers, it just seems like if anything were to happen, if Montgomery does play, I think Adams would still be the guy. So if you're the Adams owner, I think Adams is going to be getting work over Williams, just because why would you want your two, and Adams ran fine when he was in last week, but why would you want to have a injured starting running back with multiple broken ribs, and then the next guy up is somebody who has knee issues right now? It just seems weird. So if I had to bank on anything, it would be Ty Montgomery would be the lead back, limited role. Adams would be the next man up and probably end up out-touching Ty Montgomery. But it all depends, right? It all depends, which is kind of frustrating, but also kind of not. There's a lot of stuff going on with more offensive line issues going around the league than I think we really knew. There's something going on with Lang out in Detroit, and I only bring that up because he is such a huge presence on that offensive line. It's kind of similar to Yonda out in Baltimore, who, yes, he's one man, but as soon as he went down with his injury, the wheels really fell off the Baltimore offense. That wasn't amazing the first few weeks, but they were definitely serviceable. Joe Flacco was getting some protection. They were able to run the ball fairly well. And Joe Flacco was able to actually get the ball downfield a little bit, specifically to Macklin. But, when Yonda went down, it's been really rough, tough sledding for them the past few weeks. And that's a big worry if you are an investor in the Lions offense, because Lang is such a presence for them and he's done such an amazing job. I don't know if it'll hinder the offense too much, because they'll still be able to go no huddle and hide some of those problems by getting the ball out quickly. And we've seen Bradford do that the past few years without an elite offensive line. But it'll change the way they operate offensively, I think, and that you won't see as many deep balls because they want to keep Matthew Stafford. They want to keep Matthew Stafford up and healthy. So, other news and notes around the league. It's been reported Adrian Peterson. Apparently, we have yet to see the best of Adrian Peterson, and that's just fucking awesome because we totally need him not to go away and stick around, especially since I own Ingram and Kamara. I can't wait. I just can't wait for him to have his big breakout game. That's just going to be wonderful. I can't wait. Can't wait to hear all about it. It just sounds great. I'm so ready for Adrian Peterson to start taking touches. And Rob Gronkowski also has a thigh, I'm doing air quotes right now, injury, but he made the trip. He's expected to play. You're starting him no matter what. Dwayne Allen might get some extra work, but he's still really, really good. Another interesting thing, Tyron Smith dealing with some back stiffness, one of the best tackles in all of the NFL. And we'll see what happens. Packers aren't exactly the toughest defensive matchup, but that'll be an interesting one to watch. And then just for fun, Roberto Aguayo got a tryout with the Chicago Bears, who, if you followed him, he was a highly touted Florida State kicker drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe in the second round. And then if you watch this season of Hard Knocks, didn't have a very good camp, ended up losing his job. So really interesting stuff. And then when you look at the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings, they inked Stephen Ridley to a deal. So where you were maybe hoping for somebody to emerge as a lead back, it looks like it might be more of a committee. So, if you went and invested in Murray or McKinnon, you can't be happy about this, but we'll see what happens. I don't know how much playing time he will be getting since it's on such short notice. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into, I think that's pretty much everything. I think a lot of people got rest days, so you have a lot of people not practicing on Wednesdays, like Doug Baldwin and stuff like that. They're definitely going to play. I don't think that there's anything to worry about, but everybody's I think it's just already getting into that point of the year where guys are getting beat up a little bit, and and getting those rest days. And big news out of Washington. Trent Williams, if you watch the game, had a kind of, I'm pretty sure it was non-contact. He was just kind of blocking his guy. They threw the screen, and then he released his guy and was just kind of jogging after the play, and then stopped, and then went down, and training staff came over. He left the game, and he was saying it was a knee issue. Their big left tackle for the Washington Redskins, who's been really, really good, underwent an MRI and avoided a severe injury. So if you have a piece of that offense, one of the running backs that actually looked pretty decent in the game, or even Kirk Cousins, that's a big sigh of relief. So bye week, ready to get right. That's good if you have any piece of that offense. And I always hate it when offense and defensive linemen get hurt. It's always a big bummer. So let's go ahead and jump into the one last interesting thing, which has popped in my mind, was that Michael Crabtree could possibly play. It's not unheard of for wide receivers to play with chest injuries, but I wonder what that does to the offense in Oakland for this week. The EJ Manuel sighting, that's going to be a great, speaking of quarterback matchups, EJ Manuel, Joe Flacco. I think we need to get some drink bets going for some of these QB matchups this week. There's some sexy, sexy stuff. But I know people are kind of like, EJ Manuel. From what I saw last week, I know I talked about this on the last podcast, but he actually looked pretty darn good. He was putting the ball where it needed to be. Just nobody is catching anything in Oakland. Cook dropped a couple touchdown passes. Cooper dropped numerous passes, including a touchdown pass. But if Michael Crabtree plays, it'll be interesting to see what happens and how involved he is in the offense. So that's news and notes in the past 24 hours. Nothing super huge, but there was some significant stuff there. Some stuff that we'll probably have to keep our eye on going forward. So as always, we have our waiver wire and free agency. It happens on Wednesday. I guess you would call it Wednesday morning, Tuesday night. So at midnight is when our waivers go through and are processed. And then it's free agency from there on. A lot of talk in our league about how many pickups we would see. We had the line is started, I think, maybe as low as like 3.5 or 4.5. And then I want to say somebody even threw out like 7 or 6.5 or something like that. Point being, we had a feeling that this was going to be an exciting week for fantasy waiver wire, and it definitely was. So this is going to be probably our longest segment. We ended up, in terms of waivers, I believe we had 8. I want to say that we had 8. So a lot of free agent claims, a lot of waivers. So, hey, last week I was the only one that made a waiver claim, and this week everybody was involved. So this is encouraging. We're using our waiver wire. Yay. Good job, league. I'm applauding you. I'm doing finger snaps right now. So good job, everyone. I couldn't be happier for us. But let's go ahead and jump into this. First grade. Fart Apocalypse at 12:09 in the a.m. This is a free agent claim, not a waiver claim. But the New York Jets defense drops Cincinnati, gives himself a B+ and says Kaiser is underlined bad. Next, at 12:22 in the a.m., Golden Tate Warriors drops Blair Walsh and picks up Kaimi Fairbairn, the Houston kicker. F-, you are a loser. Wow, that's not nice, Robin. At 12:25, so 3 minutes later, Golden Tate Warriors strikes again with another free agent claim. With the addition of Andre Ellington and dropping Marquise Lee, B getting lots of work, but will he hold up? Yeah, Andre Ellington, he definitely made his presence known this last week. I think they might be moving away from CJ2K. I know that they kind of alluded to him just being rusty, but Ellington caught a lot of passes out of the backfield. Did pretty darn well. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this week in Arizona and if he comes out as a lead back or not. Next, at 12:34 in the AM, Golden Tate Warriors strikes again for the third time. Jake Elliott, Philadelphia kicker, was picked up. Kaimi Fairbairn dropped. F- again with this nonsense. And then the Golden Tate Warriors, for a fourth time, dipping back into the well, 12:38 a.m., adds a Baltimore defense. F-. Seriously, Maddie, make a choice. At 12:50 in the a.m., the Birchurgs pick up Cam Newton and drop Jalen Richard. B+. Maybe he's back? That's a good question. He had the great game against the New England Patriots, and they have probably one of the worst defenses in the NFL right now. Then he made the weird comment to the female reporter about football routes. Really weird. Baked Brie at 12:50 in the AM picks up Thomas Rawls. A-, will be the, quote, starter, end quote, in Seattle. That'll be a fun one to watch. Thomas Rawls, over under on how many snaps before he's hurt in this next game. Braggadocious at 12:50 in the AM. Oh, excuse me. I have to say that the Cam Newton was a waiver pickup. Thomas Rawls was a waiver pickup. This one, Braggadocious 101 at 12:50 in the AM. Latavius Murray picked up. Brandon Oliver dropped. Also a waiver pickup. B+, he is bad. Nate Silver Sith with the waiver pickup of the Pittsburgh defense. B+, another sound defense. Fart Apocalypse, 12:50 in the AM. Jaron Brown, Arizona wide receiver, picked up off a waiver. D-, dart throw, waiver claim. I agree with that. All those wide receivers, except for Larry Fitzgerald, as per usual, have been a dart throw. So, very frustrating. And Larry Fitzgerald just continues to, by proxy, be the number one go-to wide receiver in Arizona because nobody else, apparently. What the fuck happened to the Arizona wide receiver core? Like, what happened? How did it go so south so fast? This was, 2 years ago, the elite wide receiving core in all of football, where Larry Fitzgerald was your number 3. And then you look at it today, it just, what is going on? My God. Anyway, 12:50 in the AM. As you can tell, all these 12:50 in the AMs, these are some waivers going in. We have the Birchurgs pick up Devin Funchess and drop Jamison Crowder. C+, tight end disguised as a wide receiver. Lots of targets, bad matchup. And I agree. Those big-bodied wide receivers in Carolina, they're just kind of big tight ends. Baked Breed, 12:50 in the AM. Waiver claim for Aaron Jones, Green Bay running back. B, maybe the starter this week. Just talked about that a little bit. I think that he should at least be sharing reps with Ty Montgomery. If Ty Montgomery really, if it's not bothering that bad, Ty Montgomery should get a good workload. But if not, I think he'll still play. But I think I think that Jones will get he would then get probably the majority of the work. That's my guess. Golden Tate Warriors pick up the Buffalo defense and drop Baltimore. Funny thing about this is that he picked up Baltimore just 30 minutes prior. D+ was the grade. So much indecisiveness. I can hear the irritability in Robin's writing as we go forward. Golden Tate Warriors at 1 a.m. pick up Danny Amendola, drop Paul Richardson. A-, nice free agent pickup, and I agree. Amendola's been quite good. Golden Tate Warriors back at it again. 1:05 a.m. Drop the Buffalo defense, which was picked up at 12:54, and then pick up the Baltimore defense. D+, I will always hold a grudge on Baltimore for the -4 they hung up in week 4. My God, Matthew, you went from picking up Baltimore to dropping Baltimore to picking Baltimore back up. Craziness. And then at 3:34 in the a.m., picks up the Buffalo defense, drops Tyler Eifert. B+, Buffalo defense has been very good. I want to just look at that real quick. I know that they've been an amazing football defense. I was saying that just the other day, Tuesday night, the last playoff episode. But I'm curious as to how they are in fantasy. Just because they have been a good defense, and I just want to see where they are in terms of points. So Buffalo, yeah, right now is a number 5 defense. They have 41 points on the year, and they have Cincinnati Bengals coming up. So 9, 10, 8, and 14 points respectively so far this season. So far so good. Next up at 4:22 in the a.m., the Teabaggers pick up Elijah McGuire and drop Dalvin Cook. C-, better options could have been claimed. I agree. And Elijah McGuire, really good game last week, hoping for a repeat performance. Nate Silver Sith, 5:48 in the a.m., picks up Alex Smith, B+ versus Houston this week, but has been great. And then the Teabaggers, 9:50 in the a.m., pick up Robbie Gould, drop Will Lutz, K-, whatever. And then Pat of A Team Has No Name at 8:42 in the a.m., picks up Juju Smith-Schuster and drops Chris Carson. And I like Juju Smith-Schuster. He was one of the guys that I would have liked to have picked up, but don't have the roster space for all my favorite people. B+, lots of glowing reports out of Pitt, plus that TD celebration. And Robin drew a really nice, I believe it's Goku doing a Kamehameha blast. Mistakenly, people thought that Juju Smith-Schuster was doing a Hadouken from Street Fighter, but no, he's a Dragon Ball fan. I'm actually going through Dragon Ball right now. I'm on Season 3, and it's kind of fun. Never really watched Dragon Ball before, but it's been a fun show to get through. 8:46 in the a.m., A Team Has No Name strikes again, picks up Mike Williams, drops Rashard Higgins. C+, so many mouths to feed in that offense. And then 8:48 in the a.m., Pat strikes again. Adam Humphries, Tampa Bay wide receiver, drops Corey Clement, Philly running back. B-, getting a piece of that Tampa O versus New England defense seems like a good idea, and I agree. Sip of coffee. 8:48 in the a.m., Pat strikes again. Or excuse me, 9:14 in the a.m., Pat strikes again. Picks up Oakland, drops Jacksonville. B, Baltimore offense is a mess. This game could be a defensive struggle, and it very well could be. 9:18 in the a.m., A Team Has No Name. Pat strikes yet again. Picks up Kaimi Fairbairn, Houston kicker, drops Ryan Suckup. Kaimi has been really popular in free agency. That's for damn sure. K+, it's a kicker. The Birchers, 10:48 in the AM. Picks up Eddie Lacy, drops Taylor Gabriel. C-. This fucking guy again. Proud to say I've never owned him. Coin flip. And I agree. I think that backfield is at the point where you just get a piece, stash it, and see what the hell happens. So, waiver grades by Robin. Thank you so much. Over under was set at 4.5 by Pedro. That's me. 7 claims. Good job, league. I'm proud of you. Way to use those waiver wires. Woo, man. That was a lot. I'm glad that I got through that. Robin, as always, good work. And big shout outs to Robin. I have my new Fighting Sponges avatar. I had used a SpongeBob SquarePants in a football helmet for the past few years, and I accosted Robin and said, "Hey, will you make me a avatar since you're such a creative person?" And he did. And it's a sponge with the villain's face from Rocky and Bullwinkle on it, and he has boxing gloves and skinny little black legs, and he looks awesome. I like it. He's so cute. Thank you, Robin. Oh my goodness. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into this week. A lot of fun matchups. We'll do Patty projections first, and then we'll dive into my stupid projections. So first up, we have a team has no name, Pat against Baked Brie. 87-72 is Yahoo's projection. Patty has it going down 87-58 with Pat winning. He has his name circled, says changing soon, and I think Victory will do that. He has Deshaun Watson starting. He wrote God next to Deshaun Watson. That's part of his grading scale. If that person is elite or believed to be elite, they get the God rating. Juju Smith-Schuster, good against Jacksonville. He is starting, actually, and I think it could be good. Goldman, the running back out of the Giants, good, he said. Abdullah against Carolina. He wrote what looks like D, I think. I think so. Anyway. And then Houston kicker, he wrote Asian. Oh, boy. 0-4 Brienne. He circled her record. Will implode. Will Fuller has him having a big day. My QB, he wrote next to it because he is starting Deshaun Watson. And then no kicker or flex for Brienne right now. And he writes Brian. WTF. So she'll have to get that fixed. Next, we have Nate Silver-Sith against Fart Apocalypse. Projections 102-85 in favor of Robin. Pat gives this final score 83-31 in favor of Robin. Circles the 31. Lost to Scott, which he did. It was really bad. And still does not know who Tavecchio is, the Oakland kicker. He says, who? Lulz. And then in terms of Robin, he circles Doug Martin, who has him scoring 0 points, and saying, Jacquizz is better, underlined 50 times. What is wrong with bitch coach? That's a great question. I don't know. And then he has Blast Off written for Hunter Henry, getting 12 points, and Austin Safarian Jenkins with Jonathan Stewart getting 1 point. He has 1 point for Jonathan Stewart, 2 for Christian McCaffrey, 3 for Thielen, 4 for Landry, and 5 for Crabtree. And then 0 for the kicker and the Pittsburgh defense. All right. And Graham Cano will get 0 points. And Muscle Hamster also scoring 0 points. So it'll be cool. Next up, we have the Golden Tate Warriors against the Fighting Sponges. The prediction for this game from Yahoo, it's 110 to I think 104. Pat scribbled over part of it, so it's hard to tell. But I think it's 104. 39-96 is the final score in favor of the Fighting Sponges. Yes! Somebody has me winning. Thank you, Patrick. He has me pick to win. Yay, Pete, he writes. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Underline Golden Tate Warriors. Emphasizes dumb with Golden Tate also underlined on Matt's team. Pat is not a fan. Doesn't like the Warriors, and I don't think he likes Golden Tate being associated with the Warriors, so... Lamar Miller, he has him scoring 0 points. Devontae Parker scoring 0 points. Bennett, 0 points. Montgomery, he has hurt, 0 points. Baltimore defense, bad, 6 points or 0 points, I think. He has Aaron Rodgers scoring 40 points for me. Everybody else pretty pedestrian. Clay, 0. Carolina, 0. Which could be, Carolina could score 0 points. But thank you, Pat. Thank you for... I think that this will be the moment that changes my season. I have a new avatar. Pat has me winning in Patty projections. I'm going to get that first win. I like it. Thank you so much, Pat. You made my night so much better when you sent this out yesterday. Next game, we have Braggadocious 1-1 against Car Ramrod. Matt Keyser against Joe Hardman. Probably the two best teams in fantasy right now for us. I know that you would have to look at to hear also with the 4-0 record, but if you look at the points that Matt Keyser has been producing, it's been pretty significant, and I think you still have to give him the nod. Even though he's a number 3 team, he is probably arguably either the best or second best behind Joe right now. The projection for this one is 127 to 113 in favor of Matt Keyser. Patty sees this going down 196 to 73 in favor of Joe. Wow. 196. I wonder what the biggest point total that we've had in the league is. I want to say somebody hit 170. I know that I hit a 165, I think, in like our second year. But I wonder if anybody, I want to say we've had like a 170. I'll have to look and check that out. But underline 3-1 record for Matt Keyser. Sell? ? Pat says. Will Keyser be selling? I don't know. He has Antonio Brown scoring 1 point. Ben Roethlisberger scoring 1 point. With arrow from Antonio Brown says old, and old next to Ben Roethlisberger. Latavius Murray -2 points. Bad. Car Ramrod underlined creative. So he likes the Car Ramrod name from Joe. And Joe is very good, he says, and he has everybody scoring like 30 points. Everybody. So moving on to It Wasn't the Handle versus the Bertchurgs. Marcos against Tim. Yahoo sees this 1-0. Scribbled over this one. It's 108 to 110. Let's go ahead and we'll look at what Yahoo. Let's see. 106 to 110. Excuse me. Pat has this going 647 to 2 in favor of Marcos. He started writing stuff, and then he stopped and just wrote "doesn't matter" across every single position. And then he gets down to kickers, and then he has Zerline scoring 647 points and Dan Bailey scoring 2 points somehow. So that's awesome. Going down to the next game. Alcoholics Anonymous versus the Teabaggers. Scott versus Tahir. 74 to 95 is the original projection. Pat has this going 70 to 90 in favor of Tahir. This is, let's see. he has Allah written next to OJ Howard. He has, I think, last written next to John Ross, the Cincinnati wide receiver. He has gold circled for some reason. And I don't know. It's craziness. It gets cut off a little bit, but anyway. Still, that was Patty Projections. It was great stuff. I know that I definitely appreciate it. Oh, no, here's the rest of it. He sent the rest of it. Thank you. He circles his screenshot of his messenger and then like battery life and percentage and says, ignoring someone, don't lousy use UI something by Pat. I don't know. He circled the extreme terrain Jeep. I don't know. Anyway, he signs it Pat. Wrapped up. Tahir is better than Robin. Shots fired. And that's what it is. So Robbie Gold, he says that, he will play more like Silver. Oh, Robbie Gold will play more like Silver. I love it. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. So those are Patty Projections coming at you live. So good. Thank you so much. I wish there was a way I could just share this with the world. So things are getting a little spicy right now in our Slack chat. Some shit talking going on right now. We got braggadocious Keezer saying injured Gronk is greater than whoever the fuck Joe starts at tight end this week, which might not, be too off from the truth, to be honest with you. But a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and dive into the matchups real quick. We'll go ahead and start with mine against Matt. 110 to 103, as said earlier. The big five for each of us. I have Rodgers, Mike Evans, Alshon Jeffrey, Dez Bryant, Jay Ajayi, and Belial Powell. Matt has Tom Brady, Golden Tate, Devontae Parker, Danny Amendola, Lamar Miller, and Mike Gillislee going. Key things for us: Mike Evans going tonight. For me, Tom Brady, Danny Amendola, and Gillislee going for Matt tonight. This does have the makings of a shootout. I don't see why it shouldn't be. So this will be a fun but also tense Thursday night game, I think, for the two of us, because it could win or lose the week for, of course, me or Matt. We're the only ones that could win or lose. But Tom Brady has been on an absolute tear. He had slow week 1, 10 points, but then 30, 35, and 20 points, respectively. So, man, definitely could expect big things from him. And then Danny Amendola, who he just picked up, has had a couple pretty solid games. Week 1, before he got hurt, 10 points. He was out week 2, 6, and then 10 points last 2 weeks. He's been a really solid option. Scored a touchdown last week, and has good potential against Tampa Bay as well. Tight ends, Clay and Bennett, and then flex, I have Macklin, he has Ty Montgomery, Carolina defense, Baltimore defense, and then Tucker and Elliott. I would like to see Tucker get some field goals this week. I've kind of, I just have to believe that they'll be able to turn around. He had 8 points week 1, then 6, 1, and 4. It's been really, really bad. Just has not had very many opportunities. And I don't know, I might have to go to somebody else pretty soon. Just make a dart throw. I was hoping to see more from him, and this hasn't been paying off. So, bench players. Amari Cooper is on the bench for Maddie. I have Tyler Lockett on the bench. Kind of going back and forth between Lockett and Macklin. Lockett's been getting a lot of work. It is at the Rams. Macklin, it's at Oakland, so I don't know. I'll probably end up at we'll see. It's hard to say. All right, let's move on to the next game. Nate Silver Sith against Fart Apocalypse, the number 8 team against the number 4 team. The big 5 for Elliott is Alex Smith, Mike Crabtree, Jarvis Landry, Adam Thielen, Christian McCaffrey, and James White. For Robin, he is Jameis Winston, Sterling Shepard, Sammy Watkins. This is Jaron Brown, right? Yeah. Jaron Brown, Doug Martin, and Shady McCoy as his big 5. So looking at that again, we have some Thursday night appearances with White, Winston, and Martin all going for these two teams. Of course, for me, in standings, I need Elliott to not have a good game and for Robin to have a good game. But this can be one of those games where if New England is chasing points, that's when White will get most of the load. So it's one of those deals where, of course, both teams want a shootout to happen, right? They don't have defenses going or anything like that. You want Winston, Martin, you want them getting a lot of work, and Elliott needs to hope that the New England offense is chasing and have to throw a lot, and then White will be getting a lot of second, third down passing. So another big game in regards to these two facing off, because a lot of it has to do with this Thursday night. And then if we look at the benches, we have nothing too significant. A lot of buys. Thompson and Cousins, Washington guys for Elliott, C.J. Anderson, Demaryius Thomas, and Julio Jones on bye for Robin. So this is when the bye weeks are really starting to kick in. Good thing Robin went and traded for Winston. No longer has a bye week going on for the rest of the year. So that's definitely something to monitor going forward. Let's go ahead and head down to the next game, which will be, it wasn't the handle, Marcos at 2-2 facing the Birchers, also 2-2. The 6th and 7th place teams facing off. Marcos is in 7th, Tim is in 6th. 107 to 110 projection in favor of Tim. The Birchers, big 5 for Marcos. We have Brandon Cooks. Mariota, whether he'll play or not, that'll be interesting. If Marcos, let me see if he went and picked anybody up. And he has Tyrod Taylor, which could be a good spot start. Brandon Cooks, T.Y. Hilton, Doug Baldwin, Leonard Fournette, and Joe Mixon as his big 5. Tim has Newton, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, Devin Funchess, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jordan Howard all going. Nobody on Thursday, so these guys are definitely looking for Sunday. But if Mariota was good and able to go at Miami, you'd love that, because this is when his schedule starts getting rather favorable. Miami, Indy, Cleveland, then bye before Baltimore, Cincy, then Pittsburgh. So this is a meaty part of the schedule. You were hoping for Mariota to really start to make his mark, but he's got the hamstring going, so Marcos has to be a little bit worried about that. Does he go with Tyrod Taylor? He's always that dual threat. He can make some big plays happen. It's at Cincinnati. Not the greatest defense. So I think this will be a game time decision for Marcos. So Brandon Cooks is going tonight, against Tampa Bay. Has the potential for a big game. He had 8, 4, 27, and 4 in his last 4 games. Tampa Bay, not exactly the toughest defense in the world. They have some good cornerbacks. I'll give them that. But they've definitely been in shootouts. So Brandon Cooks has the potential, and that's definitely what Marcos is hoping for. He's going to need – this is a coin flip. This game is a coin flip, and when these matchups are this close, it's just going to come down to who gets the extra touchdown. What players are going to get the touchdown? And Brandon Cooks has that ability, right? And then T.Y. Hilton, favorable matchup against San Francisco. Doug Baldwin against the Rams, also favorable. Fournette against Pittsburgh. Fournette's been really, really good. And then Mixon still trying to find his way. Still hasn't had that defining game, but he's been getting the workload. Tim, riding with Cam Newton. Matt Ryan's on bye. Newton coming off of the big week last week, going up against the number one defense, though. How is that going to fare? This will tell us if Cam Newton is for real or not. He faced a kind of a paper defense in New England last week. What's he going to do this week? Larry Fitzgerald at Philadelphia is going to be a pretty tough matchup. DeAndre Hopkins against Kansas City. I'm not too worried. I wouldn't be too worried about Kansas City in terms of DeAndre Hopkins. I think he'll be fine in there. But then Devin Funchess at Detroit, that could be tough. Zeke, where Marcos has the potential with his wide receivers, you have to look at Tim's running backs and the potential that they have. Zeke at Green Bay could be like a 30-plus point game. It really could. And then Jordan Howard at home against Minnesota. Minnesota's still been good. Trubisky gets to start. That's another sexy quarterback matchup. You have Trubisky versus Case Keenum. Oh, get your TiVos ready. Record it. So many gross quarterback matchups this week. I love it. But I'm interested to see what that does to the offense. And I think despite volume alone and talent alone, Howard will probably still hit his projection. He's been really good this year. So you look at it, he had the week 2 debacle where he only had 0.7 points. I can't remember if he got hurt or he got hurt and then Cohen came in and blew up. But 12 points, 0.7 points, 26 and 12. He's been awesome so far this year. And then when we get into the tight end and flex, both intriguing matchups. Zach Ertz, who is the number 3, I think, tight end in fantasy football right now, going up against Arizona, who the past 2 years have been lights out against tight ends. How is he going to fare? That'll be interesting to watch. And then Tim has Jason Witten going. He's sticking with Old Reliable, who's had a little bit of a resurgence. Week 1 and 2, he had 12 and 15 points, but then the past 2 weeks, he's only at 0.3 and 0.9 points, respectively. Hasn't been called upon too much in terms of the passing game, where he had 9 and 13 targets in the first 2 weeks, only 4 and 2 the last 2. So Green Bay is a good matchup, though. If there's ever going to be an opportunity for him to score some points, that would be it. And then DeMarco Murray against Miami. Good matchup for Marcos. And Tim has Eddie Lacy against the Rams, which is a little bit of a dart throw. But he had some good work last week. Looked pretty good. 11 attempts, 52 yards. Looking at roughly 5 yards per carry. Not a bad outing. They were blowing out Indy. But still, you have to think that him and I don't know who their freaking running backs are going to be, but he's going to get some work. That's the point. And the Minnesota defense and Seattle defense, 2 top-tier defenses. Both guys have them going. Seattle at LA. This will be a good test. I mean, it's not home. They are on the road, and Seattle has shown some holes, but still really good defense. And I'm interested to see what LA does against Seattle. They've been, I don't want to say that they haven't been tested, but I don't know. Did Indianapolis, Washington was pretty good, San Francisco and Dallas. Washington's probably the best defense that they've faced, but even then they're kind of middle of the pack. Dallas, horrible. San Francisco, horrible. Indianapolis, pretty horrible. So we'll see what happens with Seattle. Seattle, Jacksonville, Arizona. Those are going to be some good matchups. And then New York after the bye. I think this will give us a good idea of where this Rams team really stands. So the Minnesota at Chicago. It's not surprising for touted rookie quarterbacks to come in when there isn't a lot of film on him. Trubisky will be starting against Minnesota at home, and that could be a trap game for the Minnesota defense because, as we've seen, you throw in a new quarterback that nobody really knows what to expect. They can have big games, or he can perform like a rookie and just not too much. In terms of the benches, not a whole lot. Tim has a lot of people on bye. Everybody's on bye except for DJ, who's on the IR. Coleman, Thomas, Ryan, Kelly, all on bye. And then Marcos has Pierre Garçon against Indianapolis. Does he try and go with him maybe in the flex? I think he might unfortunately have to be the odd man out. But it is against Indianapolis, who doesn't have the best passing defense. And looking at Pierre Garçon, 8, 2, 14, and 3 in the last 4. And like we said, Tim doesn't have anybody to go to really on that bench. So moving on down, Braggadocious against Car Ramrod, another match with some significance. We have the 3-1 Keezers against the 4-0 Joes, 122 to 113. This is not a coin flip. Keezer is favored in this matchup. Looking at his big five, he has Roethlisberger, A.J. Green, Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell. Joe has Russell Wilson, Odell Beckham, Jordy Nelson, Stephon Diggs, Carlos Hyde, and Todd Gurley. A lot of big names going. We had the Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger fallout last week. Antonio Brown not happy. Wasn't looked to all that much. Will this be a squeaky wheel game? If it is a squeaky wheel game, that's not good for Joe, because squeaky wheel Antonio Brown games are like 2 touchdowns and 160 yards receiving. A.J. Green having a little bit of a resurgence now that they have the new offensive coordinator, but Buffalo, very stingy defense. A.J. Green, past 2 games with the new coordinator of 17 and 12 points respectively, 7 and 6 in the first 2. The targets are definitely there. The targets will always be there. Huge volume, 10, 8, 13, and 7 for targets. And the yardage has been there too, 74, 67, 111, and 63. On pace for another good year so far. Keenan Allen going up against the New York Giants. That's a pretty tough matchup. You got to imagine he's going to be facing probably their top corners. But he's also been getting a high volume of targets. As per usual, he is a number 1 guy for the Chargers. 9, 10, 6, and 13 respectively, with 10, 10, 9, and 11 for targets. You're looking at double-digit targets up and down the board for these guys. And then yardage definitely being there. 35, 161, and 138. Hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. Looking to get another good... You got to hope that the volume will help carry Keenan Allen through this Giants game. And the good thing about Phillip Rivers as a quarterback is that he doesn't shy away from anybody, and he rarely gets scared off. Russell Wilson looking... Got to throw the ball. Looking for another monster game against the Rams, and he can do that. Beckham against the Chargers could be good. You'd have to think it's going to be good, as long as he's healthy. Then Jordy Nelson at Dallas. You got to love that matchup. Same thing with Diggs at Chicago. Looking for, I don't want to say a bounce-back game. He had roughly 10 points against Detroit. That's just fine. 98 yards receiving. You got to love that. Only thing you're missing is a touchdown, and you have an elite performance. But 23, 29, and 9 in his past 4. You look at his upcoming schedule: Chicago, Green Bay, Baltimore, Cleveland. Looking pretty good for Mr. Diggs before they head into bye week. Carlos Hyde at Indianapolis. This could be tough for Carlos Hyde. Indy, better run defense than I think people give him credit for. But it's Carlos Hyde. He's going to get work. You look at the attempts. They've been there for him this year. And just by volume alone, you got to think he's got to produce 9, 15, 25, and 16. Keep that trend going, and you could have another good game from Carlos Hyde. And then Todd Gurley facing Seattle. It's kind of just like with Tim and Marcos, where Matt Keezer's really kind of looking at some potential good matchups with his wide receivers. The running backs have it a little bit tougher when you're looking at Todd Gurley and Carlos Hyde for Joe. This will be a good test for Todd Gurley. You know that the Seattle defense, although they're not quite the force that they have been, they're still trying to figure some things out. They're still very, very good. They beefed up that front line. This will be a fun matchup. You could probably say these are the two best teams in the NFC, Seattle and the Rams. You could make that argument anyway. So I'm excited to watch this one. I will definitely be watching this on Sunday. Le'Veon Bell against Jacksonville. Le'Veon finally had not his huge game. He's had two good games the past 2 weeks, 15 and 30 points, 35 rushing attempts last week. Talk about volume, 2 touchdowns and 144 yards. My goodness. And then Latavius Murray and LeGarrette Blount are at the flex. Kansas City and Buffalo, both teams have really good defenses. This Kansas City defense is going to be a big test for Houston, and we're going to see if this Houston offense, are they for real? I don't know if they'll quite put up the numbers that they put up last week, but if they can put up good numbers against Kansas City, you have to feel really good about them going forward. And then Buffalo, this will be a tough matchup for them. Cincinnati, since getting the new offensive coordinator, has been on fire. They seem to have figured some stuff out. They're relevant again. So not too much really on the benches, Houston defense for Matt Keiser. I definitely think you want to stay away from that probably. Jimmy Graham, who's been a little bit banged up, and Martavis Bryant facing Jacksonville. Frank Gore on the bench for Joe is really the only other option that he has. And he's still holding on to Josh Gordon, hoping that he'll be reinstated at some point in the future. All right. Got to really quickly get through these last two. Baked Brie against Pat, 87-89 in favor of Pat. Wentz, Hogan, Fuller, Kupp, Jones, and Johnson for Brienne. Watson, Jackson, Smith, Schuster, Humphreys, Gallman, and Abdullah going for Pat. The tight ends, Cameron Brate could have a monster game this Thursday against New England. You have to like him. He's only projected for 6. This could be double-digit game. Same thing with Delaney Walker, 9 points projected at Miami. This could also be a double-digit game for him. And then the wild cards for both of these two, the flex spot, Moncrief and Smallwood. Moncrief against San Francisco. Smallwood has been a really good second and third down back, although it is going up against Arizona. We'll have to see how he performs. He's been getting better every week. He had 1 point, 1.5, 8, and 13 the past 4. Looking to build upon that against a good Arizona defense. And then both these defense going Arizona against Philly on the road. That could be tough. And then Oakland against Baltimore. That's a little bit of a coin flip, just like this matchup. You got Wentz in Arizona, Watson in KC, so tough matchups both. Hogan is going tonight for Brienne. So is Brate. She's also hoping for a shootout. Hogan's been absolutely amazing, the number 3 wide receiver in football through 4 weeks. Fuller against Kansas City, hoping to get a repeat performance, and then Kupp being the number 1 option for the LA Rams. And then she's got Jones, who I think will get some good work against Dallas and could have a really good game. And then Duke Johnson Jr., who has emerged as the number 1 running back for the Cleveland Browns, has had an amazing year. And Amir Abdullah finally had his big game last week, going up against a tough Carolina defense. And then Gallman trying to establish himself as the guy out in New York. So a lot of fun young matchups between these two. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And the last game that we'll get into is Alcoholics Anonymous versus the Teabaggers. Tahir 1-3 Scott against 4-0 Tahir, 75-95 in favor of Tahir, who is a heavy favorite, 20-point favorite. Dak Prescott, the big 5 for Scott. Prescott, Tyrell Williams, Nelson Aguilar, John Ross, Theo Reddick, Paul Perkins, Phillip Rivers, Tyreek Hill, Randall Cobb, Kelvin Benjamin, Tyreek Cohn, Marshawn Lynch going for Tahir. I could see this swing in 2 ways. Prescott has been on fire. Green Bay, great matchup. This could be a high 20s performance for him. Tyrell Williams against New York. There's a lot of mouths to feed. You can't cover everybody. If he can break loose for one big one, That could be a good one, but that's going to be tough. Nelson Aguilar, can't really like his chances against Arizona. Same thing with John Ross, who hasn't been getting a lot of PT, especially in practice, going up against Buffalo. But Theo Riddick always has a big game in his pocket. He had 8 points in the first game, then 3, 3, and 1. Could be due for one against Carolina, who has some trouble against pass-catching running backs. And then Paul Perkins, you're just hoping that he's able to get something going against a not very good Chargers defense. So there is some potential there. Look up Phillip Rivers against New York Giants. That is a tough matchup, but the thing, like I said, I love about Phillip Rivers is that he's fearless and he can make the best defenses look like they're on skates because he will throw on anybody. And then Tyreek Hill against Houston. I don't think that's as tough a matchup for him. I think that he just is a tough matchup for everybody because his speed is so crazy. But Randall Cobb has a potential against the Dallas defense to really have a big game. And then Kelvin Benjamin against Detroit, that's looking really tough. And then Cohen, if he can get the good synchronicity with Howard, he could have a really good game. And then, I don't know, Marshawn Lynch was looking amazing the first 2 games, but the last 2 games, granted, they've been against tougher defenses. They got blown against Washington, and Denver is an elite run-stopping defense. Will they be able to bounce back from against Baltimore at home without having their quarterback? That'll be an interesting thing to watch. Looking at the quarterbacks, O.J. Howard is going tonight against New England. He had a huge play last week, well-designed. I don't know if we'll get that this week. And then, of course, Kelsey against Houston. That'll be a good one, too. And then C.J. Johnson, C.J. 2K, and Derrick Henry working as the flex spots. I think both guys will be getting some work. That is week 5. That was a lot. My goodness. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoy the podcast on the West Coast. Go ahead and listen to this while you're on your lunch. On the East Coast, you maybe just finished up lunch. Maybe some of you guys are in school, getting ready to head home, get ready for Thursday Night Football. Maybe you're about to finish up work. I don't know. I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. Week 5, here we go, Thursday Night Football. Let's hope for fireworks. We've had some good Thursday night games. This has been Peter Livingston, Dynasty Podcast. Follow me at Twitter, at Peter Livingston. Don't follow me on email. Shoot me an email at ffdynastypod@gmail.com. We'll see you guys next, I guess it'll be Wednesday morning. We'll recap, do all of our usual shenanigans, look at week 5, and then we'll get ready for week 6. But before then, week 5. Here we go.